Yeah. So what's up, man? I'm Raufeon Stots, Bellator interim or former Bellator interim champion, soon to be and new champion. Um, yeah, man. I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas. I grew up here until I was 18, and then I went off to wrestle in college, Nebraska and Kansas, and then I started fighting in Nebraska, and then moved to Iowa and then Milwaukee, and then kind of built up a good record. I'm 20-2 now as a professional, but yeah, toward the end I've moved back to Houston probably about 3 years ago, back to my home, where my family is, where all my friends are, and yeah, I'm just a fighter trying to get back to the top.
All right, so man, I was doing a bit of research on you leading up to this interview, and I saw that in the past you actually shot the charity free throw for the Houston Rockets. I guess from one Rockets fan to another, do you have any predictions for the Rockets this season?
Yeah, man. I think the Rockets are gonna do well. We got Jalen Green. I'm always rooting anybody from Houston or anybody doing great things in Houston. I'm always gonna support. So I'm gonna be a Rockets fan no matter what. So I'm definitely rooting for them. I'm definitely believing that they're gonna go all the way to the top, and I think they got a good roster to do it.
So, Raufeon, on October 19th, you'll be facing off against Marcos Breno on the Battle of the Giants card, headlined by MMA superstar Francis Ngannou. How does it feel to be a part of such a massive card?
Yeah, this card is like pretty significant to me, being that I'm an African myself. My dad is from Nigeria. He is a huge Ngannou fan. Also, Ngannou is a huge inspiration, not only to me, but like people all over the world, not only in MMA, and boxing, and he's done great things in the sport. So for me to be on a card with him, headlined by him, it's just a blessing. It's a blessing, and I'm happy to be there to do it in Saudi Arabia. That's like another cool little accolade I can put on my resume that I fought in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, I'm super excited, man. I think this is the biggest card. Yeah, this is the biggest card of the year. It's a pay-per-view card. It's a huge stage for me to submit my name, and submit my legacy. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Super excited as well. So, I guess to kind of build off that question, you last fought at Bellator 301, which was the last event that Bellator hosted before being acquired by the PFL. And here you are now getting ready to be on what is likely to be one of PFL's biggest cards to date. So I'm curious, from the perspective of a fighter, what was it like going through that merger? Did it have any effect on you or your team?
Yeah, so when the merger first came about, I was like super excited, because it's like all these new characters, all these new fighters, these new faces that I'm potentially gonna be able to punch, so that's like super fun, to like shake up the division, at the same time I was a little, I guess, like apprehensive or nervous, just because I didn't really know kind of what my future was in the company. I didn't know what plans they had for me, or plans they had for all the Bellator athletes. So just a little yeah, apprehensive about what's gonna go on. So yeah, overall I was like super excited, a little nervous just because of the the situation of like who's gonna stick around, what are their plans for the Bellator athletes, but yeah, super excited overall.
Awesome. Leading up to this interview, actually, I sat down and I watched your podcast with Ease Edwards, produced by Love Chain, actually. And you said that Edwards is one of your mentors. So I'm curious, who else in the MMA space, whether it be a former fighter, a coach, who else impacted you early on in your career and influenced your current success?
For me, it's always been about like seeing people from my same kind of background, or seeing people my same, like whether it be skin color or like conditions growing up in. Seeing them succeed, I feel like gave me extra confidence when I was coming up, So a lot of those dudes, like I'm trying to like emulate are people that I've seen, with similar circumstances or struggles, achieve great things. So Eves is definitely one of those people, because he grew up in Houston. He was a black guy that was always smiling and whooping ass, So that was like super inspirational to me. Another guy would be Demetrius Johnson. I would consider him. He's my MMA GOAT. Because just the way he approached the sport and the apprentice mindset he's always had, like always trying to get better at every single thing in mixed martial arts until he was like an expert at everything, Also, I gotta mention my man Gents Pover. So Gents Pover was my first MMA coach. He was also the first lightweight champion of the UFC. He's also somebody who I to this day can call for any like MMA advice or any mentorships, anything I need, in that realm. He's there, for the call. So he would have to be one. Another person, I guess two people. Tyron Woodley and Anthony Pettis are like, they were active champions, kind of when I was coming up, or when I was like training there, and I got to see the ins and outs of what it took to be a champion, what it took like media wise, what it took away from your family. I got to see like those intangible things that made them a champion. So those two guys, I was able to like see it firsthand, and so that was really helpful for me, and I'll always cherish those guys.
Man, those are a lot of great fighters you had in your corner coming up, so that's wonderful to hear. So at this point in your career, you've been competing at the highest level for quite some time now. You touched upon this earlier, but you've accumulated a record of 20-2. I guess looking back on your career, which performance of yours is the most memorable, and why is that?
That's hands down when I won the belt. Just because it was in Hawaii. It was against a tough opponent. All my opponents are tough. But I was arguably down in that fight, and I had to come back and I had to make a statement in that fight. It was also, everything was on the line. There was a lot of hype around the fight, and I was able to show that I got nerves of steel, and I'll throw down and get the job done when I need to get the job done. So that fight was super crazy. I mean, not to mention it was like a highlight reel knockout of mine, and so that was like one of the best nights, especially in my MMA career.
So how did it feel, I guess, when you got that belt?
Man, it's like hard to like put into words. I felt like I was on cloud nine. I felt untouchable. I felt just super powerful, and I felt like the champion of the world. You know what I mean? So after the knockout, the knockout feeling is like a spike of adrenaline unlike no other. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was just like super elated. Everything was kind of surreal, even when it was happening, when they was like wrapping the belt around my waist. Everything was like dang, this is really happening. Like I did it, but I put in all the work to do it, and I did all the things that I was supposed to do. So I was expecting myself to win, but when it happens, it's like, oh snap, this moment is here. Like I didn't think I'd get here. Yes, surreal for sure. But yeah, that's how I felt.
Okay. A win over Breno, especially in spectacular fashion, that could throw you right back into the title mix, though you are the number one contender. How much does getting that belt back mean to you?
Getting the belt back for me is like really important. Just because it cements the fact that I'm resilient. It also like cements the fact that I can go out there and have amazing performances. Even if I, if my my last fight, my last round, my last minute was not the best, you know. And that just is like a testament to my mental fortitude. So yeah, for me, winning the belt back is like super important. It also for the people I'm inspiring, my kids, my family, especially my kids, you know, I want to show them that you shouldn't be afraid to fail. You know, you should strive for greatness, and just because you had a setback don't mean you can't get back to greatness. You know, all it takes is one step in the right direction to put yourself on the path to greatness. So yeah, it's super important for me and the people I'm inspiring.
That's awesome to hear, man. So, I know we touched upon you being from Houston, right? How has the MMA community in the city of Houston, how has that impacted your career? And what does it mean to you to be a Houstonian?
Man, it's amazing, you know. I'm thinking I got a proclamation done in my city. That's something like I would never imagine, you know, in my lifetime that I would be able to accomplish, or just, you know, reach a level that I would be able to get that, you know. Being in Houston is like, again, like where I grew up, you know, in Acres Home, in Section 8 housing. It also means, you know, where my mom and my family raised me, you know. So it's a place that's like super close to my heart because it built me into who I am today. You know, the interaction I have with Houstonians and and my family in Houston is what made me into who I am today. And I'm beginning to realize that it's unique from any other place, you know, in the world. You know, the more I travel, I appreciate Houston more because, you know, I'm able to like look back and be like, oh well, they do that different, you know, they do different when from where I'm from back home. So yeah, Houston has always held an important part in my heart, and it always will, you know. I think this is, you know, I love being here. You know, this is where I want to raise my family. This is where I've brought my wife back. Yeah, it's super important, and Houston has also it's given me so much. Not only with MMA, like relationships that I've built. You know, yeah, Houston is pretty awesome.
It's home.
It's home.
In your free time, what are your favorite things to do in the city with your family?
So I like to do, you know, most of the stuff I do is like family stuff, you know. So we like to go to what's that? The town lake down the street, you know, and go just play in the park or the little green area. Go feed the fishes and stuff. We also like to fish. With me and my brother, we'll go fishing. Sometimes we'll go to Galveston. Sometimes we'll find like lakes around. We also like going downtown. You know, we'll go to like Discovery Green, and go play. But Houston is great because it's always something. You know, it's always something to do. Yeah. Where I grew up was Acres Home. I mentioned that before. And my family has like trail rides, you know. So trail rides and riding horses is something, you know, I love to take my family to, you know, just to like, you know, have fun, kick back, ride some horses, get outside. Yeah, that's things we like to do.
That sounds like a blast. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I'm gonna end off on one final question. It's just gonna be a fun little question. If you had to name your 5 greatest fighters of all time, dead, alive, fictional, real, does not matter. Just 5 of your favorite fighters, and of course, feel free to include yourself.
Let's go. All right, my 5 greatest fighters of all time. I would have to put Demetrius Johnson. Then I would have to, of all time, I'm gonna go with Jens Pover. Yeah, because he was a little guy, you know, in a big division. Who else? Anderson Silva. Okay. Anderson Silva was a great mixed martial artist. That's it. John Jones. Okay. John Jones is, you know, his resume speaks for itself. And I'll put Francis Ngannou up there just because of the devastating way he's been able to like finish fights. Yeah, I can't necessarily. Once I get this belt back, then I'll be submitted as another one. But
I noticed you didn't say anybody from bantamweight, so you're saving that spot for yourself, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As soon as I win this belt back, then I'll have that spot. Let's go.
Great. Thank you guys for tuning into another episode of the Space City segment. I've been joined by
Raufeon Stots.
And I'm Daniel Rodriguez. Be sure to check him out on October 19th on the Battle of the Giants card for the PFL, where he'll be taking on Marcos Breno. Anyways, go Cougs.